Hi, and welcome to the first episode of Trapped by Love. I'm your host, Emma Carrington. This podcast will be covering cases of domestic abuse and domestic homicide. So if this is not the kind of content you were looking for, I completely understand. Thanks for stopping by. My aim in covering these cases is to honour the victims of these crimes and to get their stories out there in the hopes of warning others who may face similar situations. So in saying that, I mean absolutely no disrespect to any of the victims or their loved ones. I've done my very best to thoroughly research these cases and to get the details as accurate as possible. The hope is that the more people who recognise the red flags and warning signs, the less prevalent these cases will be in the future. Knowledge is power, and we need to know what to be on the lookout for so we can protect ourselves and each other. So now, let's get on with the case. Today's case is that of Anna Kemp and baby Gracie. Anna Kemp was born in Dunedin in New Zealand on the 27th of September 1962 to parents Gerald and Lilia Kemp. And when she was little, she was said to be like a little doll. She was the middle of three children, and by all accounts, she was a deep, thoughtful and affectionate child. She studied hard and achieved both academic and sporting success throughout her schooling life. Those who knew Anna remember her as a generous person. She sponsored two children from Africa, and one of her friends said Anna was bubbly and friendly. She would give you anything you needed. If anyone was in need of cheering up, Anna would take them out and try to do just that. Anna made the decision to move across the Tasman from New Zealand to Australia when she was 26. Around 5 years later, while working at the Commonwealth Bank, she met John Miles Sharpe. Now John, unlike Anna, was quiet, reserved and quite socially inept. John was born in Mornington in Victoria, Australia on the 28th of February 1967 to Valerie and Miles Sharpe. He was the eldest of six children but said to be unusually reliant on his parents. John was 27 when he met Anna, and to Anna's family's surprise, after dating only a short time, they were planning to marry. Anna and John were married on the 30th of October in 1994 at St. Thomas More Church in Mount Eliza, where Anna made a stunning bride. Then they went to celebrate after the ceremony at Sutton Grange in Mornington with their 40 guests. Amongst the guests were Anna's family, who were less than impressed by John, thinking he wasn't good enough for Anna. When Anna returned from her honeymoon, she confided to her mother Lily that she thought that she'd made a mistake marrying John, explaining that there was little love or passion between them, but being from a Catholic family, she set about being the best wife she could be. In late 2001, Anna found out that she was pregnant, and even though she was thrilled, this did not please John. Anna gave birth to Gracie Louise Sharpe in August of 2002. The couple had made a good living in John's conveyancing business, flipping homes in the Mornington area, and this allowed Anna to stay home with Gracie instead of going back to work. However, it said that John made Anna cancel her sponsorship of those two African children that she'd been donating to, so it seems that the stay-at-home mum title came with a bit of an increase of John's control, at the very least financially. The first 3 months of Gracie's life were spent in a harness to rectify a congenital hip displacement. Anna had some anxiety around her daughter's condition, and seeing that her husband was self-centered and immature, causing him to offer no help or support, she sought the respite and support she needed from Peninsula Health. The maternity unit allowed her to catch up on some much-needed sleep and also helped her to allay her anxiety about her daughter's condition. John saw Gracie as a burden and was no help with her care at all. He was also resentful of her intrusion on their lives and felt frustrated and jealous of his daughter. This was a point of contention between the couple because Anna was such a doting mother. She lived for Gracie. At the end of 2003, Anna found herself pregnant again, this time with a little boy. This brought her so much joy because she never wanted Gracie to be an only child and loved the idea of a little boy and a little girl. John, however, did not react the same way to the news. He was angry, and it showed. Friends of Anna's said that they witnessed yelling and arguments in front of Gracie, and they could feel the tension when they were with the couple. They would have previously described John as quiet and even gentle, but now they were seeing him behave in a hostile manner towards his wife. A friend of Anna's said that John had always been cold, that she'd never seen him be affectionate. Like, he'd never cuddle Gracie or put his arm around Anna, but now he was being downright mean. Around the time that they found out about this pregnancy, they moved into a new home in Prince Street in Mornington. Then, in January of 2004, John visited a local sporting goods store where he purchased a high-powered spear gun, the type used for spearfishing, a sport that he'd never previously shown any interest in. Anna was still struggling in February with her husband's complete disinterest in her pregnancy. Her brother recalls that when she came home from her ultrasound, that John of course didn't attend, when she found out the sex of the baby, she wanted for John to ask how things went, but he was, as usual, indifferent, and when she got upset, he got annoyed and said, "You're going to tell me anyway." After this incident, Anna told John that if his attitude didn't change towards their children, that she'd be looking into divorce. On the 21st of March 2004, Anna, John and Gracie attended a family function. They went to a nephew's 4th birthday, where Gracie played with her cousins and had a great time. No family members noticed any tension between Anna and John, but this is the last time the family would see Anna and Gracie. On the 23rd of March at around 2 p.m, Anna called the family's health insurer to add the new baby, who she'd already named Francis, by the way, and this was the last contact anyone's known to have had with her. The following day, being Wednesday, a TV antenna technician that Anna had booked came to the home to carry out repairs, but John kept him at the front door and wouldn't let him in. The repairman reported later that while standing at the front door, he'd seen an older man in the home. However, when investigated further, the police couldn't find any evidence of this man in the Sharpe home. Anna's family in New Zealand were beginning to get concerned when their calls were not being returned. Anna had plans with a friend, Samantha Jeffries, on Friday, but come Thursday evening she got a strange call from John. The call was strange to her for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because he'd never called her before, and secondly, because of the reason for his call. He tells Samantha that Anna has left him. The same night, he also contacts Anna's friend Dawn Shaw, who also thought it was odd that he would call her. When Dawn presses him for information about where Anna is, John tells her that Anna had left him for another man and that she had left her daughter Gracie behind. This didn't sit well with Dawn at all. She had red flags waving all over the place. She knew that Anna wasn't the type to leave her husband for another man, but even if she could overlook that, there's no way she would have left without her daughter. Gracie was everything to Anna. On Friday, the 26th of March, John takes Gracie to daycare as normal. Then when he picks her up, he advises the staff there that she won't be returning. He then takes her with him to the sporting goods store to purchase 2 spearheads for that spear gun he bought back in January. All this time, Anna's family is still worrying because she hasn't returned any of their calls, and this isn't like her at all. Lily, Anna's mother, asks her parish priest for advice, and while he's at the Kemp home, John calls Lily to tell her the same story he's been telling everyone else. Anna's left him for another man. He also expands on this and tells her that she's going to come back Monday to pick up Gracie, and that this man that she's run off with is the father of Anna's unborn child. None of this sits right with Lily, and so with her approval, the priest contacts Dunedin Police in New Zealand. He speaks with Constable John Woodhouse, and at first, the constable thought that maybe Anna may have been ashamed to tell her mother that she'd left her husband, or worried about her reaction due to her faith. But as the days went on, with no word, the family got increasingly worried, and Constable Woodhouse gets in touch with Anna's healthcare centre. And when he speaks with the nurse, she tells him how Anna had been upset at the way her husband had reacted to her pregnancy. When he continued to dig, calling Anna's friends and speaking with her family, he was getting the same indication from everyone that John was not happy about this new baby. John spreads the word to all Anna's family and friends that Anna had come and collected Gracie on Sunday the 28th and left in a taxi. Lily, Anna's mum, relayed this to Constable Woodhouse, and he called all the taxi companies in Mornington and found that none of them had any record of a fare to or from the Sharpe residence or Prince Street at all on the 28th. Constable Woodhouse tried a number of times to contact John Sharpe by phone without success. So he put together a case file and sent it to Australia, hoping they'd have more luck than he was having from New Zealand. On the 20th of May, Detective Sergeant Shane Brundell of the Victoria Police Missing Persons Unit was given the case file, and the unit was immediately concerned, given that Anna was such a responsible person and not likely to just take off with a 2-year-old while pregnant. By all accounts, this was wildly out of character. So they headed to Mornington to track down John and see if he had any further information that could help them find Anna and Gracie. The police interviewed, then took a detailed statement from John. They then put him under surveillance. After only a few days of watching him, they saw him duck into some bushes by a public amenities block near the Esplanade in Mornington. They watch him pick up a blue plastic bag and take out what appears to be a credit card. Then he hid the bag back in the bushes. Once he left, the police checked the bag and found Anna's phone and her Visa card. They also found a driver's license not long later. The police obviously had their sights set firmly on John Sharpe as a prime suspect in Anna's disappearance. On May the 26th, just over 2 months since anyone had seen or heard from Anna or Gracie, John Sharpe made a televised appeal for their return. Detective Constable Mark Kennedy of the Missing Persons Unit was the person who had initially taken John's statement. And when he sees John on TV, his first thought is that he was acting, pretending to be a concerned, emotional and distraught father and husband, playing up that he was so worried about Anna and Gracie. Detective Kennedy remembered that John was way more matter-of-fact and less emotional when he first met him. In fact, John had told Detective Kennedy that he really didn't care where Anna was, he just wanted to know where Gracie was. But now here in his TV appeal, he was over-the-top concerned for both of them, and in the detective's opinion, obviously acting. Many others expressed the same opinion, that he came off as false and completely disingenuous. The police knew that John had both Anna's phone and credit card, so they were monitoring activity on both. The credit card was used to send flowers to her mum as a combined Mother's Day and birthday gift, but Lily didn't believe they were from Anna at all, despite what the card read. Anna's phone had also been used since her disappearance, and her family reported receiving strange texts and emails from Anna's account attempting to convince them that she was fine. Missing persons detectives interviewed friends and family and brought John back in to re-interview him. They ended up interrogating him for 11 hours on the 22nd of June 2004, while officers searched his home. At this time, they finally felt they had enough evidence to charge John, so they placed him under arrest and formally questioned him in relation to his family's disappearance. At first, John stuck with his original story that Anna had run off with the father of her unborn baby, but the investigators weren't buying it. And after some time in interrogation, Detective Kennedy could see that John was almost ready to tell them everything, but was struggling to say it. John asked to speak to his parents, and after he spent some time with them, he confessed to the murders of Anna and baby Gracie. The police were not prepared for what he told them next, though. Even the most hardened police officers were stunned and appalled as he told them the chilling details of how he carried out the murders of his wife and daughter. He said that by early 2004 he'd already decided that he was going to kill his wife, and he'd also chosen his weapon. He told the police that in January he bought a spear gun and 2 spears from the sporting goods store and practiced shooting them in the backyard. He made sure to pay for these items in cash so that he couldn't be traced. Then, on the evening of March 23rd, he and Anna went to bed between 9 and 10 p.m. But while Anna drifted peacefully off to sleep, John lay awake stewing on an argument they'd had earlier in the evening and all the problems in their marriage. So this was when he got up and made his way to the garage to grab the spear gun. He then returned back to the bedroom and approached Anna's side of the bed. He took aim at her head as she slept and fired at close range. The spear pierced Anna's temple. However, he realised that this hadn't killed her, so he scrambled to load the second spear and shot her again. He then covered Anna's body with towels and headed downstairs to sleep on the sofa bed. All this while his baby daughter slept in a room down the hall. The following morning, John attempted to remove the spears from Anna's head, but wasn't able to dislodge them. So he unscrewed the shafts, leaving the barbs embedded in Anna's temple. He then dragged her body downstairs and outside to a shallow grave in the backyard that he'd dug earlier. So detectives are aghast at this confession. John has just told them he's taken his wife's life in a particularly heinous way, basically because they had a troubled marriage and he couldn't face the fact that his wife was pregnant and happy about it. But they still had one huge question. Where was Gracie? So, ladies and gents, this is where I'm going to add a trigger warning, because if things aren't bad enough in this story, they're about to get worse. This involves child murder, and if you're not down for that content, please click out now. Otherwise, let's go ahead and get this confession. So John goes on to tell investigators that 4 days after he killed Anna, on the Saturday evening, he put Gracie into her cot at around 9 p.m. and then he said he had a few drinks to dull his senses and for courage before heading out to the garage for the spear gun. He then returned and entered Gracie's room. He leant over her and fired a spear into the left side of his 20-month-old daughter's head. He didn't kill her, but unlike Anna, he wasn't alerted to this by pained groans, but instead by his daughter screaming. So he shot her again. When this didn't kill her, he fired a third time. The poor baby was still alive and in pain at this time. Having run out of spears, John pulled a spear from his daughter's head and shot her for a fourth time. After this final assault, poor baby Gracie falls silent. Detectives couldn't believe what they were hearing, and it wasn't just the account of the vicious attack, but also the matter-of-fact way in which John was telling it. He recounted in minute detail the circumstances of the murders in a cold, chilling and detached way that Detective Shane Brundell said left him with an eerie feeling. John wasn't finished with the gruesome tale, though. He went on to tell detectives that the morning after killing Gracie, he went into her room to remove the spears from her head. He told them that he covered his own face with a towel so that he didn't have to look at what he'd done to his daughter. He then wrapped her body in garbage bags and a tarp and took her and dumped her at the Mornington Refuse transfer station. Basically the tip. He took his child's body to the tip, along with the spear gun, spears and some of her clothes and some toys. A couple of days later, he said he bought 2 more tarps, duct tape and a chainsaw. John then dug Anna up from her shallow grave in the backyard and proceeded to cut her body into 3 pieces. He then wrapped and taped Anna's remains in the tarps and also took her to the refuse transfer station along with the chainsaw. John drove in telling the attendant that he had a bootload of hard waste. Police made plans to search the tip where Anna and Gracie's remains had been dumped. This was a huge undertaking though, because the transfer station periodically moved all its refuse onto a landfill in Toorong, which was 13 hectares filled with all sorts of hazardous industrial waste, things like chemicals and asbestos. However, there were a large number of police volunteers who were determined to search until they found Anna and Gracie, in order to give their family some peace. The search began in late June, where here in Australia, it's winter. So it was wet and it was freezing. Raining, windy, miserable weather did not deter the police volunteers. They were willing to keep searching even on their days off to find Anna and Gracie. That's how important it was to everyone involved. After days of searching through thousands of tons of waste, a tarp is uncovered containing some of Anna's remains. By mid-July, they had found all of Anna's remains, and then the searchers uncovered Gracie's body. The New South Wales Police had appointed a liaison officer to deal directly with Anna's family in Dunedin, and it was the liaison who notified the family that Anna and Gracie's remains had been recovered. This at least brought some relief to the family. Anna's family flew from Mornington and Detective Woodhouse accompanied them. The family held a funeral service for Anna and Gracie and for Francis, Anna's unborn son, to allow Anna's friends in Victoria to mourn with her family before they took the remains back to New Zealand and held their own funeral service back home in Dunedin. In February 2005, John Sharpe pled guilty to the murders of Anna and Gracie. He was unable to be charged with the death of Anna's unborn child, though. None of Anna's family attended the hearing, but they were pleased that they were spared the additional trauma of a trial by his plea. Then on the 5th of August 2005, John Sharpe was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms with a non-parole period of 33 years, meaning he will be eligible for parole in 2038. Anna's family again didn't attend court, but instead watched tearfully via video link as John was sentenced. When asked why he killed Anna, he said he did it to escape a loveless marriage. He called Anna controlling and moody, and when he was asked about Gracie, he simply said the child belongs with the mother. Since taking them home, Anna's family have had Gracie's surname posthumously changed, and Anna's changed back to her maiden name of Kemp, freeing them completely of John Sharpe. So that, my friends, is the case of Anna and Gracie. This case really bothers me. This piece of garbage not only killed his family, but villainized his poor wife even after he'd taken her life. He accused her of cheating on him, then getting pregnant by this other man, and then running off with him. He then had the audacity to blame Anna when he was asked why he killed her, because she was controlling and moody. Ugh. Anyway, I'd really like to hear your take on this case. Do you think there was abuse in the marriage before the murder? What about the sentence? Was it harsh enough? Let's continue the discussion over on social media. Join us on Twitter at LoveTrapPod or Instagram at Surviving the Love Bomb. Trapped by Love is a Surviving the Love Bomb production. If you'd like more information about recognizing abusive relationships, consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, Surviving the Love Bomb. You can also watch these podcasts on YouTube at Trapped by Love. And if you'd like to support either this podcast or my YouTube channel, you can do so over at paypal.com using the email survivingthelovebomb@gmail.com or at patreon.com/survivingthelovebomb. I'm massively appreciative of any support you're able to offer. I believe this is an important topic that needs more exposure, and your donations help me to be able to continue making content like this. So thanks for joining me, and until next time, take care of yourselves and be kind to one another. Bye.